Hi everyone, this is Brian over at Open Source Automation. It's been a while since I've created one of these videos to kind of walk through a lot of the features that Open Source Automation has, and since we've just released version 0.4.1, I thought I'd go over some of the new features and enhancements in these versions. We did a lot of overhauling of a lot of the different parts of the system, so now it's a good time to go over it. So as you can see, I have the manager running. I set up a few plugins that I'm going to be using, um, but other than that, I haven't really set up much of the system. It's pretty much a brand new installation. Um, First thing I want to go over is the new GUI. So we can open up the GUI the same way that we have in the past. Um, the whole GUI has been rewritten. Instead of Windows Forms, now it's in WPF, um, which is a little more modern, gives us a little more features and a little better overall. So first thing I need to do is create a screen. So I'm going to go here and create screen. Let's call it main. Now this is a little bit different than in the past. Now we are storing all of our images in the database rather than on the file system. That way, if we have any clients or UIs on any other machine on your network, you can just load them without needing to have the same image files locally on that computer. So I'm going to select an image. This, when you click select, it will show all of the images that you have stored within the database. Some of these images are the ones that are default that just sort of come with the install. Um, I'm going to start with one of these floor plans as my screen. Click add, and here's our first screen. One thing that is new is we added some things where we can play around with the frame and position. So I can remove the frame completely from the window. I can position it top left or anything like that. That way, if you have a screen that's your exact same resolution as your monitor, you can have it fill up the screen entirely. Let's go ahead and add some controls here. As you can see, these are all pretty much the same controls that have been in here in the past. I'm going to just create a state image for a lamp. Now, if I don't like any of these images that come with the install, or I need some other ones, you can just click add and add them from your file system. So I have another light bulb that I like instead of that one. So it shows up a little bit um, stretched out, but it'll show up at the right size as the image on the screen. So I'm going to choose that as my on image. And let's get the other off image. I'm going to choose that. So now you can see I have this as my my office floor lamp. Put that over here. One new control is this camera viewer. You can set up IP cameras. You can actually have a square on your screen that actually shows a live stream of your IP camera. The rest of them are pretty much the same. Property labels, method, all those kind of things. So that pretty much does it for the screen. The next thing I want to go over is the configuration. You may have noticed that in the menu there's no selection for like objects types, and all those configuration settings that were there in the past. It's because we have moved all of that to the web UI, which has been completely overhauled and has all of our configuration settings. So to get to that, you can just click on the configuration icon in the manager, or you can directly go to your localhost at port 8081. As you can see, it comes up with your login screen. The first time you start the web UI, if there are no if you haven't created any person objects, It'll say there are no users, you need to create a new user, so you just put in a name and password and that will create a new person object, and you can use that as your first login. So I'm going to sign in. As you can see, this shows pretty much the same sort of thing that was in previous versions. It has objects, has the properties, states, methods, events. And you can see up here along the top, these are all pretty familiar as far as what used to be in the older versions. So you have your object types. You can control or create, configure different object types. Next is scripts. Scripts has definitely changed quite a bit. Now we have the option to have multiple different script processors. Before we just had our one script processor and all of our scripts had to be written in that language. And then it was really not very robust, and a lot of features that people wanted didn't have. Now we have the option to have multiple different, basically plugins for different script processors. So now we've created a PowerShell plugin that will parse and process scripts that are assigned to that plugin. It gives a lot more features and robustness. So as you can see, these are all just default script processors scripts. Also, a big change is scripts are entities within themselves. They're not necessarily assigned to a specific object event. Instead, you can assign one or more scripts to an object event. So as you can see, let's say like my office occupied event, I've assigned the office lights on script. And so this will run whenever the office is occupied. You can assign more than one, so you could even have one script that is processed by the default script processor. You can even have, and then a PowerShell script, and they will all get run in sequence when that event occurs. You can also add scripts, one or more scripts to object type events. So rather than having an event on one object, you could say I want to run this script or these scripts when the on event occurs for all objects of type person. So whenever any person arrives, it will run this script rather than one particular one, or having to set it for every single object that you want to do it for. Patterns are pretty much the same. You have patterns and you have matches for that pattern. You can assign one or more scripts for when that pattern is matched. Schedules, basically exactly the same. You can have a single entry. It can be recurring. You can run a script, or you can run an object method. There's also a plugins page, and you can actually enable or disable plugins directly from the web UI, so you don't have to use the manager for that. Also over here in the version column, if there are any newer versions available on the open source automation website, an icon will show up here with a link, and you can just click that and it'll go directly to the plugin to download the new version. You've also got your event logs, your server logs. These are the logs that are in the logs directory in the wherever you installed open source automation. Rather than having to go there to look at them, you can just pull them up here. It'll show the logs. It'll just load all the items, all the log files directly into the web UI. And lastly is this config page. Shows you what current version you're running, if there's a new version available, debug, tells you whether the service is running, and all that, and the size of your database. That pretty much covers it. Those are all the main features. There's a lot of other stuff that kind of happening behind the scenes that is new. We hope to be pushing out new versions of the web UI and other things at a much more rapid pace now that we've set up the web UI as a plugin. So we won't have to release full new versions. We can just update the plugin, and we'll have a lot of new enhancements and features coming soon. So hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you on the forum.